Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Halo in Review podcast series. This is a series where in each episode we're going to break down an individual Halo game, talk about what we enjoyed, what we didn't enjoy, the positives and negatives, our fun memories, all of the great things. Joined as always by Hosty. Hosty, how are you today?
Hi.
It's time to rage.
God, I hate this game and I love it. All right.
We're on to the title that started the controversy. Maybe some would call this the beginning of end of Halo. We're on to Halo 4 today.
Yeah. And it's weird looking at all of the statistics for the game in retrospect. You realize this was not a bad game. It was not a bad game at all.
No, it's kind of interesting. I feel like it's almost it would be better served as like a movie instead of a game sometimes.
Yeah. I mean,
It has so many good high points in its story, but also at times like you play through the whole thing, you're like, I don't really even know what just happened.
yeah, that's very fair. And when I get into my positives and negatives, I touch on that very hard. I can't wait to talk about that at least. Halo 4, the start of controversy. This game was released November 6th, 2012. And again, released November 14th, 2014 on MCC for the Xbox One. Developed by 343. Was this their first total game? I think we touched on this a little bit in the last one.
Yeah, this is their first main game. Before that, their first Halo game was CEA.
Yeah, this is like their main line.
This is their first original game.
This is like their debut.
Right.
Everything else was just, oh, we're going to show you guys what we can do, and then we're actually going to make a game later.
Right.
So, critical reception, unlike what you see on Reddit or Twitter, overwhelmingly positive. IGN said a 9.8, GameSpot with a 9 out of 10, Metacritic with an 87 out of 100.
Now, this is a take, but it is a fact. IGN has rated Halo 4 higher than I think any other Halo game.
Yeah, they rated this one the highest. Halo 3 was at a 9.5. So the IGN thought this was a better Halo game than Halo 3.
Have you ever seen that
Take that as you
Twitter?
will.
Have you ever seen that Twitter account? I forget like what it's called, but it's pretty much like every game that IGN thinks is worse than Fortnite. Because like they gave Fortnite something absurdly high, like 9.4 out of 10.
What?
And so they'll like pull something out and they'll be like, you know, because they'll like compare review scores. So they'll be like,
Yeah.
IGN thinks that like, I don't know, Gears of War 3 is worse than Fortnite. You know, or like IGN thinks that Halo Master Chief Collection is worse than Fortnite, or you know, whatever the case is. It's hilarious on how many games. Like it just goes to show you that critical numbered reviews are usually meaningless. You know, like just put it into context. They put Halo 4 as the same score as Halo 2, and it's rated better than Halo 1 and Halo 3. I mean,
no,
I don't agree with any of that.
That's biased.
It is.
I mean, which one's in the Gaming Hall of Fame and which one isn't?
That's right. Exactly.
So getting into this, there are some fun facts. They're pretty fun. There are some facts. I don't know if they are fun facts, but so this game actually surpassed Halo Reach's opening day revenue. That's not too hard. Making it the largest Halo release at launch at its time. Suspected record still hold. Okay, yeah. It is, so it still holds the record for Halo games. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so they never announced Halo 5 sales in terms of dollars. But Halo 5, so I don't think Halo 5 did as well as Halo 4, and now that we have Game Pass, I don't think Infinite is going to surpass Halo 4. So it may be, like, for the rest of time, Halo 4 may be the best opener of a Halo ever.
That's kind of weird, though, too, because, like, this is the game with the controversy. This is the game where they switch up the entire art style, like make it completely different. The grunts look weird. They go back to being apes,
Yeah, they
instead of being intelligent creatures
they
like the
they
the
forgot
Covenant.
English.
So yeah, it's kind of odd. But lore people will stab us for that. So
Yeah, that's right.
so this is the first game in the Reclaimer trilogy. They later redefined this as the Reclaimer Saga.
I
I
th-
guess they didn't think they would get a game after Infinite.
I don't know whether they meant the Reclaimer trilogy to be Halo 4, 5, and Infinite, or to be 4,
Mm,
5, and Halo Wars 2, or if like maybe it's a quadrilogy with 4, 5, Infinite, and Halo Wars 2.
yeah.
I don't know. I think it still has yet to be seen when the Reclaimer saga
Mhm.
ends.
Yeah, and I could totally see them jumping into something more like switching it to like named Banished Saga after Halo 5, because then you have Halo Wars 2 opening up with the Banished, a completely new opening. Like we just had Halo 5 introduce the Guardians, and now we're having them introducing the Banished. It's like, guys, why are we doing so many intros? What's happening in Infinite? Like,
Yeah, it's a lot.
uh, I don't know. I think this is where they started to lose their sense of direction with what they wanted to do, because Halo. So they obviously wanted to open up with Requiem, because we saw that in Halo 3. So back in 2007, they knew this was happening. Um, so it's kind of like you get all of the past Halo 4. They just keep opening and opening new doors. It feels more like a DLC than adding on to the base game.
Halo 4 was a clear change of direction where like you just knew that they said okay, we're going to go somewhere new. Like this is where we want to go with this.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of had the Star Wars problem where they wanted to open up a new
Mm,
trilogy or a new saga, but they didn't know where it would end. They just knew where it was beginning from. And I think
yeah.
as you kind of build on the first entry, you kind of lose what you started. I may be not making any sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, because like when you watch 7, 8, or 9 in Star Wars, for those of you who haven't watched it, they all feel like they should be a part of something else. Like you can watch any of the other movies and still have fun. Like you can watch 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and 3 and still have a good time. These feels 7, 8, 9 feels so lore heavy and just so serious that it's so different.
I find a direct
You know what I mean?
correlation in both story, direction, and reception of Halo 4 and 5 to the Star Wars sequels. I mean,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they actually almost released in the same time as well. It was kind of just an interesting coincidence
Okay.
between all those.
hmm And maybe it's just a bad year for writing. Writer's hiatus.
Maybe.
Yep. So moving on from that point, next fun fact here is it is the first core game developed by 343 Industries. I know we did say that a little bit more um, earlier here, but that's very important to note here. I mean, especially with these reviews, like we're looking at a game that received basically straight out of the gate nines and nines and eights from a company that has never made a game before.
Yeah, it's really impressive. It's really
hmm
impressive. I guess when you're given Halo, um, I guess at the time you could say it's kind of hard to screw that up, but I guess they 343 said just hold my beer.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. It with this point, I would say it kind of. I don't know. I feel like most of the complaints were after release, because you had Spartan Ops coming out constantly, and it was basically all the same maps. You had, I guess at first it was a pretty limited Forge mode, if I'm correct.
I believe you are
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, because it was very limited. You didn't have Forge Island yet, and um, you couldn't really make any super incredible maps unless you were good at Forge, like you were in Halo 3. But this is still it's kind of at first it felt like a step down from Halo Reach's, huge Forge world. I'm guessing people were more expecting something like that. So this series, Halo 4, well, this game Halo 4 was complemented with the video series, Halo 4 Forward Unto Dawn.
I own
Did you watch
it.
that?
No,
Yeah, I
I
was gonna
own
say.
it, and I put it on my Plex server, but I've never seen it.
Really? It's
Yeah,
not bad.
yeah. Is it correct that the consensus is like that's the only good Halo mass media? Is Halo Legends any
Yeah.
good?
Halo Legends is good if you like animated stuff, like any sort of anime or Western animation, stuff like that. It's really good if you like that. Um, it felt like something that could have been aired on Toonami. I don't know if it did, but if it did, it fit right in.
Right. Okay.
Um, I remember my buddy when I was younger actually had a disc copy of it and we watched it. I had never seen it before. I knew nothing about it, but it was
Of Legends or Forward?
Legends, yeah.
Um, uh,
So I didn't even know that kind of thing existed. So that was um Legends was all right. It took a right mindset because it was just what book is it that has just a bunch of short stories?
it's not Evolutions.
Is it?
It may be.
I think it is. It's just a bunch of short stories, but yeah. Forward Unto Dawn was about 2 hours, I want to say, just about, and it was really good. Like it didn't. It felt more like amateurish, though. You could tell that
Hmm.
this was more of an amateur movie, and it didn't really have a clear not a clear conclusion, but it just felt so abrupt because at the very end they get into the Pelican, fly off, Kelly takes her helmet off, and then they're like, oh my gosh, Spartans are people, not robots, and then that was the end. So
Well, so I'm looking at it
um
here on my Plex server. It looks like I got a 67 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is actually positive, believe it or not. And
yeah,
then
that's not bad
the release
for a
date,
game movie.
yeah, and the release date for it is October 5th, 2012. So this must be a prequel movie to Halo 4.
It was so basically it was flash it was think of it like Lasky having Vietnam flashbacks. So
Okay.
yeah, that's all it was because he heard the beeping and then he just went back and thought about the academy that he was at in um when the academy got attacked by the Covenant first. So
That's actually
that was
really cool. I love
yeah.
that angle of Halo.
Yeah, going more onto the humanity side of thing, which I thought was really good, and then they just kind of flopped it with the next one. So
Yeah.
whenever we touch that with Halo 5,
That's right.
I wish that one didn't exist. But anyway, so this game was actually remastered. I guess you can call it remastered. Only 2 years after release, with the OG release being in 2012 and MCC in 2014. It just kind of got an FPS boost, didn't it?
It also got a resolution increase. It was native
Yeah,
1080p 60, whereas on the 360, I think that console can only output 720, and it was 30
it
frames.
does. It does 1080.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Mhm. It may have just been like an FPS increase or a slight resolution increase, like
but
anti-aliasing or something.
yeah, nowadays it's 4K 120
Hmm.
on the new machines, but I mean it actually is a astoundingly decent increase in quality between the two releases.
Hmm.
But I should note that in my opinion, I think Halo 4 is the most beautiful Xbox 360 game. It's
Yeah, and I
incredible.
was I was gonna note that like this game came out on hardware that came out not seven, 5 years after like its release.
No, you're right. It's 7 years. The
Yeah,
360 came out in '05. Oh no,
yeah.
they come out in
No, it came out in
'06.
'07, '06, '07.
Hang on, now I'm
So
confusing myself.
it's '06. You're right because Oblivion came out on it. So
it's November 2005.
There's no way. Oh my God, you're right. Xbox 360 2000. That means it came out right after Halo 2.
Yeah.
What? What are you doing, Xbox?
I guess what now this is a tangent, but what if they were? I mean, nowadays, if like that were the case, like, well, just wait a year and put on the new hardware. Do you think they ever had that
Yeah,
conversation? Just wait a year and
they,
put it on the 360.
they probably did. I wouldn't doubt it, but the original Xbox, everyone had one in their household at that time.
Yeah.
But when the 360 was out, the 360 was incredible. Um, I don't know how they managed with that hardware for so long. I mean, I ran with my Xbox 360 from basically start to finish. Same one.
Yeah. I upgraded to the Slim, but
Oh, look at this guy.
the three the 360 is probably, I don't know if it's my favorite console. I like to say the One X is my favorite console, but my goodness, the 360 had just such an astounding run. I
There
mean,
was yeah,
it
there were
was
so many evolutions while it was coming out too. Like you just started to be able to download games. You just started to like have Xbox Live being a huge thing.
yeah,
You had the revolutionary new controller for the Xbox 360, and it just kind of stuck with the Xbox One. Very, very minimal changes.
yeah.
Um,
You had DLC for the first time. You
yeah.
had parties
Well,
for the first time.
yeah.
Wireless controllers were a thing for the first time.
It's
Internet
nuts.
ports on consoles, with the exception of the Dreamcast, and the OG Xbox. I mean, like, oh,
Yeah.
LAN port, really. I mean, they were
Yeah, LAN
just
port versus like Wi-Fi. Yeah, it was good. Um, but yeah, let's get into the fun stuff, I would say, of this podcast where we get to talk about our favorite memories, favorite missions, cringe moments, positives and negatives about the game.
okay. I'll start it off with favorite memories, and
Okay.
I would say I wrote seeing the Chief again after what felt like forever, because this was about
Okay.
5 years in between Halo 3 and Halo 4. Of course, there were other
Mhm.
Halo games of Reach and ODST, but
Yeah.
it just felt like you hadn't seen the Chief in so long, and it was just so good to be in a mainline Halo game where the Chief was the main character. You know, you got, it was kind of like a reunion with Cortana, and you're back on the Forward on the
Yeah.
Dawn after the end of Halo 3. I mean, it was just awesome to pick
It's like
up.
your 5-year anniversary after high school.
Yeah, I mean,
Meeting up with everybody or your 10-year or whatever you have.
but it's all relative, of course, because, you know, the difference between Halo 5 and Infinite is longer than the time between Halo
Yeah.
3 and Halo 4. So,
I was gonna say we're gonna have a similar feel with that, I think,
yeah, I mean,
which will be fine.
in reality, actually, if you want to put it into perspective, Master Chief was only in like 3 missions in Halo 5. So, really, it'd be like the first time playing as the
Yeah,
Chief again since Halo 4, which was 9 years ago. So,
yeah, like having him as the main. No, we'll just play as the new guy for like 10 missions out of the 15.
that's right.
Just play as a marine. It's ODST too.
That's right.
Um, So I'm gonna say my favorite memory would have to be when the game released. So all of my friends, like we played Halo Reach a bunch, and we were getting older at this time. We're looking at like high school, and you can take off on weekends, stuff like that. So this was the first time like I'd hung out with people that I'd never met before, and we all got together at this dude's house, and just I only knew about two people there, and we just played big team battle basically at his house, an 8v8, and I was like, what in the heck? I felt like this was Halo 2 again.
Yeah.
um and no, that was insane because that was the first week that the game had come out. They're like, oh my gosh, this game is so cool. And that is probably my all-time favorite memory for the new Halo games. Like, I don't have any good memories from Halo 5, I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't wait to say that later. um And this one, because I remember my friend had played it. He actually like came into school sick and purposely went home so he could play all week, and then came to that party on Saturday that week. He's like, "Oh yeah, I was faking it. I
That's
was playing Halo 4 the whole time."
that's amazing.
The dude just cleaned the floor with us that whole weekend. Um, but great memory, great memory. What's your favorite mission?
This is kind of hard because part of what makes Halo 4 so great, and I think what takes it away, is that there's a lot of really long missions in Halo 4, like just stupidly long. And I guess I would say my favorite mission is Infinity, and a lot happens in this mission.
Okay.
This is like the third or fourth mission in the campaign, but you get to do everything from. This is the one where you're still kind of in the jungle fighting off the Prometheans, and then
Oh yeah.
you get aboard the Infinity. You kind of meet everyone, and then you're given a Mantis towards the end. And it was the first time we got to pilot the Mantis, which was so awesome and epic. And
That is an amazing vehicle. I hope we get Colossus later.
you also get to drive in a Scorpion tank as well. So I mean, there was a lot of vehicle combat in this mission, and I think Halo still does vehicle combat better than any other FPS
Yeah.
in its campaign. I mean, you have great vehicle combat like in Battlefield or whatever, but just Halo nails it, and it still does in Halo 4. And I think Halo 4 like really dials everything up in other parts too, like when you get on the Mammoth as well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I like the Infinity mission. What about you?
You know, when the campaign ended. So no, for real though. I think that all jokes aside, the ending was really good. The Diadax final speech he gave at the end after he's quote unquote dead. Um, he's probably alive. I don't know, but I don't read lore. His final speech at the end, them going to New Phoenix and seeing Chief take off the armor, everyone just in absolute awe that this man, this thick boy who's built different, walking in and taking his suit off after like I don't know how long. Uh,
Years.
yeah, absolute years. I mean, that was a crazy scene, and it felt so different. I probably rewatched it like 3 or 4 times. Um, and even played the last mission on Legendary a couple times just to get that ending. But that was different. Um, it had the same feel as the Halo 3 ending. And I will say too that the Halo 4 one, I honestly thought there wasn't going to be a Halo 5.
Oh,
The way that they ended it,
you
I
thought
thought
that
that
was
was
it?
it.
Wow.
Yeah, because I thought Spartan Ops was just going to take over, become a live service, and then they were just going to milk it and do spin-offs. Because Chief taking his suit off, that was pretty symbolic that was it.
Yeah, but I wonder if that was kind of a nod to Halo 1, where he takes his helmet off at the end above the. I guess that's a short sword that he was flying at the end of Halo 1. Or is it
Yeah,
a long sword?
it's a long sword. Yeah, it's a long sword.
Yeah, there's a lot of nods in Halo 4 to previous Halo games. And I
Yeah.
wonder if that was it. Because it's so bizarre how Halo 5 picks up, but the ending of Halo 4 just has so much weight to it, and I think it's the
Yeah.
best ending in the whole series of any of the regular campaigns.
I mean, it was the only ending that was a clear ending,
Right.
All of the others were cliffhangers because you have Halo 1, he's like, "Oh, we're just getting started." Halo 2 is finished the fight. Halo 3, he's drifting in space in the middle of nowhere. It's like, "Okay, what's going to happen? How are they going to find him?" Search party begins. And in Halo 4, the search party finds him, floating in the atmosphere, and then they conclude it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I mean, that leads into my positives, but I'll touch more on that in a minute. What was your cringe moment for this game?
too many times in this campaign where you're fighting the Prometheans and you see like watchers or knights just kind of standing there and you have some really good grenades. You're like, oh, I can just throw a grenade over here and take them all out. So you toss, you do a Hail Mary, you throw a grenade straight up in the air or whatever the case is. And then there's a watcher and it catches the grenade and it throws it right back at you. I've actually had a plasma grenade stick myself
Mhm.
from the watchers, and it's just cringe when that happens, especially on like legendary or something, and you gotta reload a checkpoint. It's yeah. So those watchers are stupid. What about you?
I'm gonna say I don't like the multiplayer at all. Um, I'll start with that. There are many reasons. I'm gonna touch on that in the negatives, but I would say my list is pretty hit on positives are the campaign. The negatives are basically everything in the multiplayer. Multiplayer's bad, dog. Uh, it felt like so. This is when COD was getting into like the whole Black Ops thing, like Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3 era, where it's all starting to become futuristic. And then Halo's like, oh, okay, we can actually implement some of this stuff into our game, I guess, and they do. So it felt more of like a COD reskin than anything. I mean, why are the casual weapons just as good or if not better than the weapons that take skill?
Yeah,
Why? That
there
makes no sense.
there's a lot of there's just egregious amounts of COD in Halo 4's
Yeah,
multiplayer.
it's basically you have to be looking 4 ways all at once in a Halo multiplayer match in Halo 4, or else you're just going to get domed in the face by some power weapon cross map.
Yeah,
You know, and in Halo 3, that's a way different approach than Halo 3 because Halo 3 had strategic positions to sit in. Each area probably only had like 2 or 3 places for you to watch, like front, left, back, something like that, or um, pretty much everywhere had about 3 points of entry, except for the places that you would see people camping, like on an example in Halo 3 would be like Construct where the sword is. There's only 2 points of entry from below and the walkway over there. Um, but for the most part, in Halo 4, they took a very open approach on some of those maps because some of those maps you could see cross map from the start.
yeah,
Um, and even if we're, some older games had that, like Blood Gulch, but Blood Gulch had cover.
yeah,
Had plenty of very suitable cover that you could still use, like the rolling hills blocked some shots from certain areas. It was very passive cover, but it worked. So yeah, that's my cringe moment. Do we want to touch into the positives? The campaign. I mean, you know,
yeah. I think most of the positives for Halo 4 correlate to the campaign, and
yeah,
I gotta start off by saying I think Halo 4 is such a lore treatment the whole way through. You can tell just by playing Halo 4 that
yeah,
there was a lot of research into how things should look, how things should act, how things should feel, the way characters speak, their personalities, the environments. There was just a lot with Halo 4 that you learn so much more about this universe, and it's just more than UNSC versus Covenant. I mean, there was other factions in play. You got to just experience more of the Halo universe, and it didn't involve a Halo ring for the first time in a game.
yeah.
If you don't
That's.
count like Reach or ODST.
I
Um,
mean, we still did go to a Halo ring, so
that's true. But
we
it's
didn't get on it though, which was weird.
yeah, that's right. And it's I just think that Halo 4 does such a great job. Um it's very gentle in the way that it introduces so much more of the lore. But if you enjoy the previous games or came from the previous games, it just unlocks so much more knowledge for you as a Halo fan. Or you could just pick up Halo
Okay.
4 as your first Halo game, and it doesn't really matter if you don't understand anything prior to Halo 4. It's a good spot in this series to just kind of pick up for new beginners, if that makes sense. You know, it
No,
seems like there's kind
yeah,
of a divide of everything before Halo 4 and everything after Halo 4. And like Halo 4 is what introduces this new era of Halo.
yeah,
I think it did it
that's
well.
that's fair. Yeah, it definitely feels like a new game. So
What about you? What's your first positive thought?
campaign good.
Campaign good.
Basically everything you just said about the lore, like it all makes sense. There's a good story over underlying. Like you have this problem with Cortana, and you need to get back home. But then, on your way back, like trying to get back home, you discover the boys that want to turn us into robots. So, so you take the boys that want to turn you into robots, and they start turning us into robots, and then we stop them from turning us into robots.
Right.
And then Chief takes off his armor, and then that's the end.
The condensed version. Thanks for
The
watching.
Yep, there you go. Um, that's basically my positives there. With at least the campaign. Um, so I see your next one. That kind of touches on what my entire favorite mission was.
Yeah, the ending is so
Hmm.
strong and so heavy. It was. There's very few times in gaming that has an emotional connection to where, at least for me personally, where I'm emotionally connected to the story in a game. There's
Yeah.
very, very few games that I connect with in that way. And the ending of Halo 4 was definitely, probably, I think I almost cried. No, I mean, not trying to be funny or anything, but the ending of Halo 4, I do think I got choked up at the end the first time I played it because you just didn't know what was coming.
Yeah.
You had this idea that going through the campaign, you are gonna make it home. You are gonna save Cortana. Like everything's gonna be okay, and then you realize it's not.
Hmm.
And the way that they handled that ending was so great, and the speech, the conversation between Lasky and Chief on the observation deck
Oh my
was
gosh,
just
yeah.
the icing on the cake to that whole thing. I mean, it was just
It
grand
was
slam.
sadness.
It
Yeah.
was.
Grand slam.
I mean, it hit you right in the feels,
Yeah.
and your heart broke for this character that you've been playing as for 11 years at that point. So it was definitely an emotional moment, and I think it's one of the strongest endings uh, that I can recollect in all of gaming.
Yeah. I
It's astounding.
going back and like thinking about that, like, yeah, that's crazy because I just talked a little bit about like, the Prometheans ending and like, the didact talking stuff like that. I didn't even think about how hard that ending hit with the whole Cortana situation. I mean, they took it home with that. And then they destroyed it in Halo 5. So,
Yeah, that's
um that kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth when we get there, but I wish Halo 5 didn't happen. So it would have been way better if we just went straight into Halo Wars 2.
yeah.
Go from Halo 4 to Halo Wars 2 and then go into Infinite. There would be no difference.
I
So,
agree. It's just I don't understand why they did a 180 on with you. They knocked out of the park, and then they just decide like everything that we did to build on this epic ending and start this great. At that time, we thought it was a trilogy, and they just ruin it with Halo 5. That's why
yeah.
I dislike Halo 5 is because it ruined everything that made Halo 4 so great to the point where it was like, why do we even have this epic ending if Halo 5 is just going
Yeah.
to either reverse it or ruin it? And it actually did both in Halo
Like
5.
imagine in Halo 5 if like a similar ending to Halo 4 happened. Like everyone knows by now that Cortana died in Halo 4, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Spoilers. But there it's imagine if that happened in the next one. Um Chief doesn't really have anybody left at the end of Halo 4.
Mm-hmm.
Halo 5, imagine if they brought in Lasky, like Lasky was there and the Infinity just explodes close to the end. Like they sacrifice the Infinity or something, outside of the outskirts of Reach, and then the like to the Banished, and then a Halo Reach something, well, something something Halo Reach. Lasky sacrifices the Infinite, and then like 30 or 40 new ships show up, and they're all the Banished, and that's the end of Halo 5. Like,
Yeah.
guys, that's better than what you currently have here. Like, think about that. That would have been way cooler, and then they could jump into Infinite with what they have now, because then the Banished are introduced, and then it would make sense why they're in Halo Wars 2. Um, it would give Halo Wars 2 more like solidified ending or solidified beginning, because it's like, oh gosh, they don't know the Banished is a thing.
Right.
Leave the cliffhanger there, and then going into Infinite being like, we lost, is like how they're starting Halo Infinite, and you're like, oh god, what happened while I've been gone?
I wonder if
Um,
they mean in Infinite when it's, like on that trailer, it was like so many days since we lost. I wonder if they mean that they lost in Halo Wars 2 or they lost in Halo 5. Because they lost in both games, technically.
yeah, yeah, but it looked. I mean, there's speculation. You can watch older videos about that, but yeah, no. I think if they slam dunked Halo 5's ending, Halo Infinite would have been so much hype right now. That's all I can imagine. That's alternative history though. So,
Yep.
um, I will say that I had a positive. I liked the Forerunners, like the Prometheans. They were a nice addition. As much as you hate them, they brought new mechanics. Because like before, we've been fighting the same mechanics for 11 years. How grunts, when you stick them, they'll run at elites. Elites, when you stick them, will start running at you. Or when you shoot an elite in the body and his shield drops, he does the roar, and then you can shoot him in the face easily, or something like that. We've dealt with that for 11 years. The exact same mechanics. Bringing in something new like that is awesome. Um, and bringing in actual meaningful mechanics too, like how the Watchers throw grenades back at you, or they can shield or resurrect an enemy if you don't kill them fast enough. I feel like the resurrecting was going a little bit too far, or like summoning in the crawlers. That was a bit too much too, but bringing in new mechanics like that, where it feels like they're you're playing, hey, let's shoot through and be murder hobos, and then the other team is like a well-structured D&D squad coming in to just wreck you. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
like they're all classed out and all have their specific roles, whereas you're just like, I'm just going to shoot my way out. um no, that would have been awesome. um
It's
it,
it's a fair point. I still disagree, but I'll wait to get into the negatives to
okay.
to make my counterpoint. But I mean, I can't
Yeah,
argue with what
I
you said.
I think the game needed some new faces
No,
after Halo 3.
that's
Yeah.
it's a really fair point. It's a really fair point.
All right. What's the next for you?
I actually thought the music was really good. It's
Yeah,
the
that's fair.
soundtrack of Halo 4 is a um, departure from what we were used to from the classic
Hmm.
Halo chants and songs, and with the choir singing, and how epic it was in like Halo 2 and Halo 3. It was just a different piece of music. Almost, it kind of caught me as like maybe something like Indian or Middle Eastern kind of a mix into it,
Hmm.
with the soundtrack of Halo 4. But I think it is perfect for the kind of the setting, unfamiliar, unknown, and mysterious.
Yeah,
And
I would say that the difference is on Monday when you wake up, you get those nice Gregorian chants from Halo 1, 2, and 3. And then by the time you get to Friday, you're pounding yourself with so much Red Bull and caffeine that you need this really pumped up music to keep going.
that's
Like
right.
it feels like you're going at 90 in Halo 4 compared to the other games.
Um, I just the soundtrack is great, and I love that you can just flip flop at MCC and immediately listen to it. Um,
Yeah.
it's a strong soundtrack. I like it a lot. What about
Yes.
yours? What's your next one?
I would say Roland.
The
Um,
the gentleman.
the gentleman Roland, an actually intelligent AI, not Cortana who thinks that caves are natural formations.
That's right.
And like he actually does things that make sense in that his superiors didn't normally think of. You just had in Halo Wars you had Serena who would just loudmouth you and like she just takes orders, and then you had Cortana who I'm just gonna be hacker man and hack into the Covenant BattleNet like I always do. Whereas this guy actually made good calls all the time, consistently.
He
So
he seemed to be like the most human like, I think, out of
that's fair.
any of
Yeah.
the previous AIs. Where I like that when there's like a conversation and what was it, Lasky and Del Rio are talking on the observation deck. He goes, Cortana's alive, and like no one pays attention to him, and he starts getting
That's
more
in
and more.
Halo. That was in Halo 5.
Oh well, never
Yeah.
mind. See how forgetful
But
I
I
am.
mean, it's still yeah, it's fine. I mean, he doesn't talk too much in Halo 4, but for the most part, he is still a very good AI. And it definitely brings him down, like brings him up a notch, I would say actually, when in Spartan Ops you have the fail-safe code that Halsey put in an AI, because it's like, oh, he's actually not a person, you know, he's a robot. Which I liked that a lot because someone put a backdoor in their own AI systems. So pretty intelligent overall. The AI in Halo 4 were probably done the best, I would say,
Yeah, I agree with that.
because you have the Halo Wars 2 AI, Isabel. She just feels like a second Cortana and doesn't feel like she does anything that a regular AI does. She just performs light shows, and in Halo Wars 2, and she shoots the beams. But yeah, I would say the AI actually made sense in this game. So
My next one's kind of a take, but it seems to be getting a little bit of more support in the recent years. But I actually love Halo 4's multiplayer. I
oh god,
I didn't really play it a whole lot on 360, but I fell in love with it when it got into Master Chief Collection. And I don't know if it's because it's the frame rate or that it's a smoother experience or it's just fast. But I found myself to
god.
be pretty decent at it. I would say that's probably the multiplayer I'm one of the best at in the whole series. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought a lot of the maps on it were good, but I never played it with friends. I never played it a whole lot with like in like custom games or any of that other stuff. But it was really just like casually jumping into Team Slayer or some of the objective game types. I enjoyed it, but that you know that's a very hot take.
So, um, MCC actually like makes Halo 4 a lot better than it was on release. They kind of just low weighted all of the really really bad maps. Like there was this map that was a Promethean map, and it was just a straight line. There were there were three lanes, one underneath the map and one left, one right. And there was an incinerator cannon in the center of the map. And basically it was who gets to that first wins. Um, there was a lot of small instances like that. Like they did some pretty good stuff to Halo 4 since it came out. I specifically remember playing on some of those big team maps that did not feel like they should have been big team maps. They were so small. There's a one of the maps where it's just kind of like a loop. It's a circle, and there were two. There was a scorpion spawn that both players had to fight for. There was a banshee spawn that both players had to fight for, and then there was each player got a warthog at their spawn, and those warthogs basically were always up. It was insane.
You know,
And
it
it's like think of like Rat Race. If Rat Race from Halo 3 had a banshee and a scorpion, that you had to like run after and get it at the start of the match.
Yeah,
That's kind of how it felt.
now that you think of it, I, I don't really remember a whole lot of the maps of Halo 4 other than Haven.
Hmm
Or
Haven was like my only like map I liked.
yeah, but I just
So
felt like it was kind of a mix of an evolution of Halo Reach with a lot of COD mixed in. And
yeah,
maybe it could have been at that time in my when I was gaming, I was really big into COD. Like that was when Black Ops 1 and Black Ops
that's
2
fair.
were really
Yeah,
popular, and I love those two Call of Duties. So maybe that had something to do with it, but I loved the classes that you can make because I would always do hologram and everyone would fall for it all the time in Halo 4. But
yeah.
I enjoyed it. I don't know if that means that it's a good multiplayer or a good experience. But I enjoyed my time with it. It's probably the multiplayer I played the least in of all the Halos, but
Yeah,
it was one that I have fond memories of.
yeah. It felt way too different to me from going to Halo 2. Then Halo 3, it was an all right multiplayer. And then going into Halo 4, which to me it just felt so different. It did not feel like a Halo game whatsoever. But there were some like positives to that I'll touch here in a little bit. So I'll just say two at a time here because one of mine is so there's a guy on Instagram who for I think it was like I think it was 365 days. It was like 365 days of Del Rio. And it was a guy who every single day posted a different meme of the surrender that AI meme. Um and it was like in different font or like distortions or he just switched around some of the scenes. It was incredible. He did that I think 2 years ago now, but my goodness, the memes that surrounded the surrender the AI meme, well, surrender the AI scene were just perfect. And then I would say that this game I like I like Halo 4 because they made the game engine that runs H2A in Halo 4. So this it's the same game engine that Halo 2 Anniversary runs on, and Halo 2 Anniversary is my favorite multiplayer out of all of them.
Oh my gosh, I
So
love H2A.
it's so smooth. Like that is it's Halo 4 graphics and Halo 4 art style. Well, I wouldn't even say art style. It's Halo 2 art style, but in Halo 4 graphics. Where it's like the same color palette and everything as Halo 4, but the art actually is like Halo 2 and it felt so good. How did they not do that for Halo 4? What
Well,
happened?
they pretty much copied it for Halo Infinite, so
Yeah,
I mean Halo 2 Anniversary's multiplayer is very similar to what we played in Halo Infinite in the tech preview.
that's fair. Yeah. Um yeah, I didn't get to play that, but hopefully I do coming up here.
I
I think it's
think it's all insiders.
yeah, it's all insiders coming up for this next one. Isn't it the 24th or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, it's a week from
Okay.
tomorrow
Mhm.
at the
I
time we're
can't wait.
recording this.
Yeah.
Um, my next one is I just thought it was really cool, like an Avengers team up of all the UNSC weapons in Halo 4. You had the BR, the DMR, and the AR, plus like new entries like the Saw, and you had the Sticky Detonator, which I thought was awesome. But I think what was most interesting was Halo 4 was, in my opinion, the first Halo game where the AR like finally slaps to where
What?
like in
Halo
Halo
2 it slapped. Come on, man.
because in Halo 1 it was a bullet hose. It wasn't even there in Halo 2. In Halo 3
Oh, you mean the AR. Okay, okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And in Halo 3 it was a pea shooter. And so in Halo 4 it's finally useful. And maybe a little bit too much to an extent, but I really enjoyed that the AR was actually good. Like in a campaign mission, they give you an AR, and you're like, yes, I can
Yeah.
use this.
So I'm just gonna hit my negative now since you brought up the AR, because that AR I hate it with a passion. That assault rifle has a faster time to kill than the battle rifle at 20 meters.
Yeah.
20 meters away. That is your like edge of your radar, 5 meters away from being off your radar. It will outkill if you're just aiming at the person by keeping the reticle in the same place, because of kick on it, recoil. If you keep your reticle in the exact same place on both guns and you hit in the same place, it kills faster. Why does it kill faster? This is an assault rifle. The battle rifle is a mid-range gun. So in this game, the DMR is kind of replacing the old BR, like the one from Halo 3 and Halo 2 and all of those, because it has the longer range. This BR has very short range and it's just burst. The only situation I could see the BR being better than the AR in multiplayer in this game is if there is a map with a lot of corners, because then you could shoot someone, go back behind the corner, shoot him again, get all of your bursts out. So it would do more initial damage each time you see the person. That's the only situation I could see this BR actually doing something. But the AR in the Magnum, like the AR Magnum combo, was better than like a BR Magnum combo um or any of the starting weapons, like a pistol. Honestly, running both pistols, like a Magnum plasma pistol combo, was a faster time to kill than the BR, because you could use the plasma pistol, switch to the Magnum, and one hit him in the face. So there was a lot of I don't get it.
It
But yeah, that's my hot take on the assault rifle in Halo 4. It is too OP. They even consider. So here's the thing: they consider it in Halo 2, in H2A, to be a power weapon when it's in H2A.
yeah.
Yeah, it drops as a power weapon.
Yeah.
So
And it has a very similar feel to how it operates. It's almost like it's a mix in between the Halo 4 AR and the Halo 4 Saw
yeah,
in H2A.
it's just a slower shooting saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good comparison. Uh, my last one is it's kind of two in one, is that it has amazing cutscenes in the CGI department. It's I think the only time you see the CGI ones is the prologue and the epilogue, especially when Lasky is doing his really awesome talk with Chief on the observation deck at the end of the game. But the characters in Halo 4, I thought that they introduced all had different personalities, and they were all great. So Lasky was really easy for, I think, players to fall in love with. Del Rio was really easy to hate. Sarah Palmer was kind of, I don't know if Sarah Palmer was meant to replace like Sergeant Johnson as the soldier that takes orders.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I thought you had an interesting villain for the most part in the Didact, and Halo 4 was really a journey of character development of Cortana and the Chief. And even though we've been playing with Cortana and Chief for the last 11 years in Halo 1 through 3, I don't think there's as many moments for character development between the two of them as there is in Halo 4. Really, when they're talking with one another and interacting in previous entries, they're always talking about their objective or their mission. They're not necessarily talking about their own relationship with each other, or the condition
Okay.
of one another, like an aging Spartan and a malfunctioning AI. I think Halo 4 kind of shines the light. Like, yeah, Master Chief is getting old, and Cortana is failing due to rampancy. And just them introducing rampancy, I thought was a great dynamic too to that whole story. So it just goes to show Chief's loyalty for those that he loves. It's the cast of characters in Halo 4 is fantastic.
Yeah. One thing I was gonna bring up: Sarah Palmer is basically Miranda Keys and Johnson put together.
The Dragon Ball Z fusion dance of those two.
Yeah, basically, she just fused with them, and that's what it is. That's what Sarah Palmer is like. She tries to act badass, but at the same time, she's very cringe. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, at least like characters wise, every single character role that died in Halo 3 and 2 got filled by the new cast in Halo 4. So,
Yeah, that's fair.
um yeah, the ODSTs got replaced by Spartan Ops people because they have the same dynamic,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
Um
I guess we
and
can go into
they
the
were all killed.
negatives of Halo 4, and we actually have quite a long list here for a game that I enjoy so much. But I think as a Halo fan, it's pretty easy to pick apart Halo 4 because I think it tries to do so much that it fails in slight ways in others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Halo 4 kind of felt like they were trying to do so many things at once while staying in some sort of structure. Like I was just, talking about the characters. They needed to fill slots in the dynamics of characters, but at the same time, they were trying to do Spartan Ops. They were trying to do like an incredible campaign, a huge multiplayer that got live service. Um, they tried to flush out the ranking system, which you said you weren't too active, right?
Yeah,
For that, okay.
I didn't
So
get involved in ranking.
first 60 levels were like the regular Halo 5 system that we know and love today. Not really. And it was just normal. You just ranked up. But after that, you chose a specialization in your Spartan. Like you unlocked the armor for that specialization, and you had to play as that specialization for like 10 ranks. And like you were stuck with it. And then you after those 10 levels, you have to choose a new specialization. And like each specialization had its own perks. Like oh goodness, I do not remember now. Like there was wet work, in some others, like wet work unlocked the perk to I think it was something with radar. I don't exactly remember, but like you got perks, right? For completing these 10 levels. So it's like you got in game, it was play I don't know how to explain it, but basically it felt like a you got better or you got aim hacks in the game because you played more than someone else.
Right. It
Um,
removed the level playing field.
yes, it did remove the level playing field that you saw in every other Halo game. Um, where at the start of a game, somebody who's level 130 has more perks to choose from in their loadout before the game spawns in. Oh yeah, speaking of that, loadouts are a thing. You got to choose what your starting weapons were. So I forgot about that.
Yeah, I thought that was cool, but I know pretty much
That was
everyone hates it.
awful.
Yep. Fair enough. I how do I begin this? I let me start with my negatives by saying I hate everything about the Prometheans and I hate everything about the Promethean weapons. And let me see
They're
if I
all
can
OP.
let me see if I can kind of describe this in a way that makes sense. I feel like the Prometheans have very few variety. There's only 3 Prometheans in Halo 4: the Watcher, the Crawler, and
Yeah.
the Knight.
Mhm.
And they're all very predictable in their behaviors. The crawlers kind of just move around and spam you. The knights are kind of like the OP elite knockoff, and then the watchers, of course, do protecting, throwing grenades back at you, and resurrecting. So they force you to go fight the watchers first, and then the knights would always kind of teleport away, or they would try and like zoom up real close to you, or they do that thing where they kind of like show their skull or their face, whatever, like right in your face and try and scare you. I don't know. There's just something about the way the Prometheans acted that I thought was just not fun. It wasn't really rewarding to take out like a squad of Prometheans. It wasn't rewarding to eliminate
Yeah.
knights or
Okay.
watchers or anything. It just and the weapons all kind of felt the same. They all looked the same. They all acted the same, and I just didn't see a point in adding an entire like sandbox of weapons for a third faction. There's just too many weapons in Halo
Yeah.
4. They got a whole range of the light rifle, the scatter shot, the bolt shot. I mean, just a whole range of weapons for the Prometheans. And you got a whole range of weapons for the Covenant. And then, of course, you have all the UNSC weapons. And, they add some stuff and take away some stuff. It just was like, what is the point of all of this change? And I know it's meant to introduce a new faction and a new antagonist and all these other things, but there's something about it that it just didn't click with me to where I had more enjoyment, as always, taking out the Covenant than I did the Prometheans. And I think that's why I feel like the missions where you're working exclusively against the Prometheans are forgetful.
Yep. Which is why I kind of forgot about most of this campaign, and why I did not like most of the Halo 5 campaign. So it's the Prometheans they just do the exact same thing that the Covenant did, just again.
Yeah. They don't
They're-
really have a soul and they don't really have a purpose. I just feel like they're in the way.
Yeah, they're just kind of there. Talking about like the Promethean weapons, the sandbox is just garbage. Oh my gosh. No useful guns. Well, I should say there was only a select few useful guns. All of the Promethean weapons were OP in some sense. Bolt shot was a Halo 2 Magnum and a shotgun combined. It was
Yeah.
basically a mauler that could shoot long range.
Yeah.
And then you had the light rifle, which was a DMR and a BR, had the best parts of both. Like, you had the super long range, which 3-shot people in the face, and then you had the short range, which did 4-shot burst, like 4-shot to kill. And then you had the scatter shot, which was a shotgun that could reflect its bullets off the ground. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like you can hit somebody around a corner with a shotgun, then it's kind of like a no-you gun. But then you had the binary rifle, which was a one-hit to kill anywhere sniper rifle, replacing basically all of the other sniper rifles in the game, like beam rifle and regular sniper. And then the incendiary cannon basically replaced every other big hitting splash damage gun. Like, it had a gun and then it shot out a burst that had more bursts. It was like a Halo 4 Gallarhorn if you play Destiny. So it was OP as hell.
Yeah. There's also no real explanation on why we were fighting the Covenant again in Halo 4, because
yeah, that's fair.
I don't know if they talk about it in the Forward Unto Dawn series, or maybe there's a novel I'm missing that takes place in between 3 and 4, but 343, and they do it again with Halo 5, they like to do this thing where they just assume that you understand what happens in between time takes place between these games. Like in Halo 5, for example, all of a sudden blue team's back together again. You're like, well, how the hell did all these Spartans get reunited? Like, where did they, like, even if you played the games, like, who are these people? You would have to read a novel to even understand these characters.
And they're not even mentioned in the games before Halo 5.
Exactly.
Ever.
The only time I've ever seen them mentioned is in Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary at the cryo chamber when on the first mission when you're leaving the Pillar of Autumn. You can go look at a screen and it would say Fred and Linda are like reported as missing on a screen.
Yeah.
But like that's it. And in Halo 4, Master Chief just says, I thought we were at peace with the Covenant, or we had a truce with the Covenant, and Cortana just kind of shrugs that off. And then like they never talk about it ever again. And I don't know, I just feel like they should have mentioned that in a cutscene, like when Chief gets rescued by the Infinity. I wish he'd be like, why are we fighting the Covenant again? Or something. I don't know.
They just kind of accepted it and moved on.
I think you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think my understanding of it is that the Covenant that we see in Halo 4 is a different faction than the Covenant that we had a truce with at the end of Halo 3, and that's Arby's Covenant in Halo 3.
Yeah. So basically they were a specific faction of the Covenant that kind of went against them and said, hey, we're not gonna, abide by, your stupid treaty. We want to kill all humans. So
Mm,
they did it anyway.
okay.
Yeah. So basically nothing happened. So
Wonderful.
yeah, that treaty meant nothing. With the Arbiter kind of like, oh, were it so easy, and so that's kind of how it felt with his quote. Like, it's not that easy to have a truce with the Covenant or with another species that literally wants to kill you because they're zealots. So
Right. What
yeah.
about you? What are some things you don't like about the Halo 4 campaign that you put on your list here?
Yes. You said campaign, but I didn't like. I liked everything about the campaign for the most part. I did not like though that there was no boss fight against the Didact. What was that quick animation? Why are these a thing in Halo 4? They've never happened. So these started popping up like when I was the first time I ever noticed that these quick time animation things were happening was in Halo, not in Halo, in Battlefield 3. They did that a lot. And then I noticed it started coming up in more games. I guess that was just the first one I noticed it in. And then Halo 4 is like, nah, let's put it in our games too, and then kill the leader of the Forerunners with a quick time event. Well, okay,
It
I
didn't
guess that
happen
works.
anywhere in Halo 4 prior to that event, right?
No, it happened once other time. Happened in the first mission and then in the last mission, and that was it. So why
Interesting.
not? Yeah, isn't that weird? They only included it in 2 missions in that entire campaign,
It
and you
kind of
only use it. You use it 3 times, and that's all.
it kind of felt like the beginning of Halo 4 when you release the Didact and he does that speech,
Hmm.
and it just felt like that this was building up the entire campaign to some sort of epic boss fight between the two of you, and it was just not the case. I do wonder if maybe due to timing constraints based on release, like they had to cut out a boss fight and they just made it a quick time event.
Yeah, that's fair.
uh, that's really my only explanation. Or maybe they thought that, you know, it'd be too much weight to lose Cortana and fight this boss in gameplay at the same time. I don't really know what they were thinking, but
I feel like that would give it more weight. You kill this boss fight, you feel fantastic, and then you sit down and realize, oh my god, Cortana
yeah,
just died. You know?
yeah. I don't know really what they were thinking, but it's actually, I think one of the first times I played through it when it did that quick time event, I kind of was like, oh, thank God, like I'm done fighting the Prometheans because I'm just tired of it. Uh,
um, I felt like if they would have done something similar to like Halo 2, when you beat the old man up, the handicapped man in the chair, um, that is regret. If they did something like that, but then you shove it into his like stomach,
yeah, yeah,
that would have been way cooler.
yeah.
Like jack him like a wraith.
Oh dear.
Just shove it in. That would have been way cooler.
um, my next point is that there's a lot of characters gone in Halo 4, and and weapons too, by the way, for seemingly no reason. So, we had buildup of Lord Hood. We have no idea what happened with Arby. Even minor characters like the Shipmaster from Halo 3. I mean, they're just gone, and they don't talk about it in dialogue. They don't talk about it in cutscenes. Um, I wonder if there's an again.
He didn't even seem concerned.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just because that's how the chief is. But if I were to wake up, I'd be like, "Where's Arby?" I was like, just with him, like literally
Yeah.
just with him. And so I don't know. There's a lot of weapons missing for inexplicably no reason, like the SMG. I mean, there's just I don't know. There's just some bizarre choices made
Yeah.
on characters and the weapons in Halo 4. And I wouldn't say it's a negative thing, because if they're not there to begin with, these characters, then can you really say it takes it away from the game?
Hmm.
I just wish they would kind of hint onto why, because for a game that's such a big lore treatment, I just
Hmm.
wish they would allude to these characters a little bit. Just even a
Yeah.
sentence be like, "Oh, Lord Hood got transferred over here," or "Arby's fighting these dudes," or just something. But
Yeah,
nothing.
like you find something or you hear about it on the Infinity. They could have. Oh my gosh! You know the mission where you're getting the Pelican?
Yeah.
They could have just added in dialogue with one of the Marines on the side.
Yeah.
Be like, "Oh, I heard the Arbiters fighting at St. Helios." Like, what? They could have just added that there. Or like
Yeah.
the reconstruction of Earth is going well. Like, guys, they could have
Please.
added so much. Yeah, like, come on. Um, I didn't even think about that, but I would say another point here is it was way too linear.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very linear campaign because Halo One had a lot of aspects, and you could do you had to hit all the same objectives, but there was no certain order to do them in a lot of cases. Or in Halo 3, there was different ways to do it. Like you could save that Marine with the Needler in the first mission, or not, or there were several times you could save Marines and it changed the outcome. Like you have more people to fight with you now. Or um sometimes there was like two different paths. Like in Cortana, the mission, there were several ways to get to one area, like climbing up one of the holes to get to the top. Those games were still linear, but they had several ways to go about it. Halo 4 lacked that. There was, like, yes, there were explorable areas in like the mission where the Forward Unto Dawn explodes into Requiem, where you're searching around for a little bit. But for the most part, there was a lot of hallways that you had to go through. Um, it yes, Halo is a linear game with open world aspects to it, but Halo 4 just kind of is like, nah, we're not going to do that. And you could tell in the missions, because when you're playing in like Reach or playing in Halo 3, a lot of those areas look like they're meant to be there, like they're natural. Whereas when you're on Requiem, some of the canyons you go through just like they're canyons. They look like there were canyons built there for your mammoth to specifically drive on it perfectly. You know,
Yeah.
like the
There's not a lot of option for exploration in Halo 4.
yeah, and all of it fit a little bit too nicely. Like, oh, perfect. I can fit my ghost perfectly through this crack right here and keep going with it. Or um there was no sense of, oh, screw you guys. I'm going to get this warthog through here whether you like it or not. There was none of that in this game. There was a kill barrier or a wall that prevented you from taking your warthog or ghost or something past a certain area. They were limiting choices, I would say, of what the player could do.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
but yeah, that hits my absence of choice part. At least that you don't really have too much of a choice what you can do in the game to change gameplay or to do something different in your next playthrough. There was the campaign's basically the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And that's what I didn't like about it, because in Halo 3, Halo 2, Halo 1, and all of the others, except for, Halo Wars, um, you there was a basically infinite amount of things you could do to change the outcome. Like, you could have all of your Marines fight in an area, all die, and then not have them in the next section. And the next section is like 10 times harder because you didn't have those Marines.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
yeah.
I fully agree with that. And I think that Halo 4, I think it just seemed to kind of fall with the gaming trends at that time.
Yeah.
We talked about how it really codified the multiplayer with even with the kill cams. And
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of the kill cams.
and the time to kill was really short, and the custom
Mhm.
loadouts and even the perks. I mean, it was literally a direct rip off from Call of Duty. You could not tell me that was not heavily influenced from COD, but it's kind of ironic that Halo influenced what Call of Duty is now, in a sense, and then Call
Hmm.
of Duty re-influenced Halo.
Yeah,
And I think this
it's a
was
good way
one
to
of the
put it.
first times that Halo had always, from a multiplayer standpoint, with a new entry, Halo had always either revolutionized or reiterated forward the multiplayer experience. So, for example, Halo 1 on PC was like the first time that you could really enjoy playing a shooter online. And then Halo 2 was the first one with matchmaking on console that really worked and that was fully like welcomed and loved by the community. And Halo 3 had all these options of
Hmm.
Forge and custom games and theater and power your armor abilities and the pickups and all these things. But what did Halo 4 add? I can't really think of anything. Um,
Sadness.
yeah. So,
It added Promethean weapons, which kind of just broke the sandbox. So
yeah, but I mean that's just from a quantity standpoint. Like, what did it do from a quality standpoint? I can't really think of anything where someone's like Halo 4 advanced the genre of multiplayer shooters by introducing this. You know what I mean? And
they just kind of played it safe this game. You're right.
so
Yeah, you're absolutely right with that.
I don't. In my opinion, like I said earlier, I enjoy the Halo 4 multiplayer. I enjoy the Halo 4 campaign. I enjoy Halo 4 overall. But this was really a point that it didn't really take anything forward. I think it was one of the
Hmm.
first times where it kind of just was checking some boxes.
Yeah, they they made a good campaign. They told a good story, but they didn't do anything new.
Mm-hmm.
So to say, like, yes, there was still, you started with equipment in Halo 3, then they revolutionized it in Halo Reach. The only thing different they did was they moved it so sprint was a part of your kit, and then they just added armor abilities on top of that.
Yeah.
So they just moved an armor ability to be permanent, that you always had it. So not really much of a change, honestly, going into multiplayer besides like the art style and how each weapon interacts. So that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I have really high praise for Halo 4. I think this is still the best Halo game 343 has made. Because technically they didn't make Halo Wars 2. Um,
That's fair. Yeah.
I think Halo 4 is it's excellent. Really, it is. And if you want to nitpick it to death like you can the other Halo games, you can certainly do that. And kind of piece apart what may take away from the experience, and you may be like, well, maybe I don't enjoy it as much as I thought I did. But it's an incredible story. I think it's one of the best stories in the series. I mean, it holds its place from a story perspective up there with Halo 2 and Halo 3. And it's a wonderful experience, especially if you're going through it on the first time. But you
Hmm.
really, I don't recommend you just jump into Halo 4. You really should experience 1, 2, and 3, and then go right into 4.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you're done
Four
with 3, start playing 4.
four kind of requires the build up from the first three games.
It does.
Yeah. Like going in and just playing Halo 4, yeah, you can do that, but you're not going to get the same impact at the end of the game. Like it's going to be way different.
Yeah,
Um,
playing the previous games, really ODST and Reach are kind of irrelevant to Halo 4, but
yeah.
when you play 1, 2, and 3, you can understand the weight of the relationship between Master Chief and Cortana, and I think that's kind of what they've tried to make the centerpiece of the Reclaimer saga
Yeah.
of Halo 4 and Halo 5, but they completely miss it on 5, and they knock out of the park in 4. So we'll see what happens with Infinite, but yeah,
I hope it's something good.
I hope it is too. I'm trying real hard not to get spoiled for this because for that flight,
Oh my
data
gosh, yeah.
miners know the campaign, so I'm trying really hard not to get spoiled. And probably like the weeks leading up to it, I'm just gonna like not go on Twitter at all, and like not be on Discord at all, and just try to experience
Yeah.
it for the first time myself.
Yep. I'm definitely gonna play through that. I actually already requested off the days the game's gonna come out, so
Oh, nice.
yep, I'll be playing through that and then grinding multiplayer after I get all the stuff in campaign done.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a, I guess more or less a supplemental episode of Halo Infinite later in this series. We're going to be back in the next episode with Halo 5. We're going to absolutely destroy Halo 5.
Gonna get wrecked.
So we'll do, of course, an episode for Halo Wars 2, and we might do an episode for Master Chief Collection. Just to talk about the experience of the highs and lows of that as well. But yeah, Halo 4 is available on Game Pass. It's, of course, in the Master Chief Collection. That's not one of the ones that's additional. Reach and ODST are additional, but if you just get MCC, Halo 4 is in there. And you should play it if you haven't. It's good.
It's cheddarful.
Hosty, thank you so much for your time today, sir.
Thanks for having me. Bonjour.
And we will be back with Halo 5. There's a playlist, by the way, of all the episodes in this series. So probably by now, this playlist should be pretty full of all of the episodes. But if there's a particular Halo game you want to hear us break down, check out that playlist.
Hey, everyone, go to your fridge. Make sure that your carrots aren't going bad in your fridge.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Go check.
Please do. Please do that.
Let us know.
Yes. And we'll see you, James.